All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with a very special guest today, ESPN's finest, Paul Finebaum. For those of you that might not know Paul's story, he's an award-winning writer. He's won over 250 awards as a writer, and he's been working for ESPN's SEC network for over 10 years now. One of the most established people in the business, and nobody better to sit down and talk to as an aspiring podcaster like myself. Yeah, how you doing today?
Thank you. No, it's a real pleasure to be on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I've heard a lot about this podcast around my neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. That's good. I hope good things. Let's get into it. Paul, you graduated from Tennessee. You began your career as a writer for the Birmingham Herald-Post, and then you slowly transitioned into radio, and then eventually had your own radio show, and now work for ESPN SEC. How did you go through all those transitions in life? Just kind of take me through it.
Yeah, I think I think the real message is you have to be flexible and nimble.
Sure.
I never dreamed when I started I would be doing this. I really wasn't even intending to be a writer.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Wow. Okay.
And when I was in college at the University of Tennessee, I saw an ad in the school newspaper for a writer, and I was kind of bored. Went down. They tried me out. I couldn't write, but I had an inclination to find things. So
Yeah.
I became a reporter. Then I realized pretty quickly sports was where the action was on a college campus. And I had two offers coming out of college. I was hardly a five-star top athlete. I had two offers from two different newspapers. I took one in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Spent a year there. Went to Alabama, and really kind of I covered the end of Bear Bryant at Alabama, and it really gave me a lot of backstory. And I loved reporting. I loved writing. But to speed this story up, I realized that newspapers were about to be extinct.
Smart.
So I got into radio and almost fell over there.
You're all good.
And kind of rode the wave of sports radio
Yeah.
in the 90s, and that eventually brought me to ESPN 11 years ago.
Yeah. So you get to ESPN, you've been here now for 11 years. What's been your favorite part working for ESPN?
Well, I think that probably the first year, everything I did, I was like awestruck. I would go up to Connecticut at the main headquarters, and I walked in the Sports Center studio, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. You think about, as you get older, everybody's watching Sports Center, and you're now in the studio doing it on a Sunday morning or Saturday night or whatever it was, and it never gets old. My very first year at ESPN, because the SEC network was still a year away,
Yep.
they really didn't know what to do with me.
Uh-huh.
I had moved up to Charlotte, so I know this sounds crazy, because I was hired to do an SEC show and then an SEC weekend show that went to campuses. So they said, hey, why don't we put them on College Game Day?
Uh-huh.
So I literally traveled the first year with College Game Day.
Wow.
So that was my introduction to ESPN, and it was pretty. I was awestruck the whole year.
Was College Game Day your favorite part, you would say, at least in the beginning?
Well,
I know
yeah,
the atmosphere is
you're suddenly the very first weekend. I'm in Clemson for a game, and there's 20,000 people, and I make some crack about Clemson, and they all start booing me, and I'm like, going, man. I was quite an introduction to game day, and it just kept happening. And the whole year was a roller coaster ride. I was the kind of reporter and kind of conversationalist I was. I just spoke my mind, and nobody told me you're not supposed to do that. And everything I'm saying is like boomeranging off of message boards and blogs, and all of a sudden, everybody hates me.
Yeah. There you go. That's crazy. So if you could go back and do it differently, would you do anything differently?
No.
Okay.
I don't really have a lot of regret. Everybody in their life, you could say, do you regret this? Or we all have regrets.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to, I probably would have. There's some things I said that I wish I hadn't said at the time. In fact, one player in particular, my first year on college, I was on a show, and we were talking about South Carolina. Jadeveon Clowney was their big star. He was their big star, and he was just he was a clown. The guy, he was loafing and taking time off and not practicing. And the information I had was coming from his head coach. It wasn't like I was reading it on some
Wow.
some blog.
Yeah, you
I had
weren't
literally
making it up.
talked to Steve Spurrier, the head coach, and he said, "This guy's the worst. He's terrible."
Yeah.
And so I came on a show on ESPN, and I said, "Jadeveon Clowney is the biggest joke in college football."
Yeah.
And man,
Yeah.
it went viral. Everybody hated me. So yeah, do I regret that? Maybe I could have called him the biggest clown in college football, not the biggest joke. But it got
Yeah.
me noticed, and I've really never turned back. I mean, I had never really criticized a player before,
No. So yeah, that was
but
different. Yeah.
I mean, listen, the guy was the biggest player in college football. He was #1 draft choice. It wasn't like I was picking on some walk-on.
No. Yeah. It's not like you saying that was like, oh, he's not going to the league now. Like,
And then the
still-
problem was the head coach criticized me, and I'm like going,
You're like, wait a second.
"You told me, but,
Yeah.
you couldn't violate that confidence." So I got really hung out to dry. But it was I nearly
You
got
really got put in a
fired.
bad
But
spot.
other than that, it was a great. It was fun.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Well, I was going to ask, what was your first ever nationwide controversial situation, but I'm assuming that was it.
I'd been involved in. I'd had a situation in Alabama once in 2011.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the. It's been forgotten about now because it's a long time ago. But we had a guy that called our show, who admitted on the air that he had poisoned these iconic trees at Auburn University, the tumor trees, where the students would go. They would roll them after every win. Now Auburn hasn't won that much lately, but and he admitted he poisoned them because of.
I read about this.
And it wasn't just like a sports story. It became like national news.
Yeah.
So that was really a big deal. He ended up going to jail. So that was in the parlance of talk radio. That's one of the more controversial moments.
Sure.
But so I'd had some experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the 2024 season. I don't think there's anyone better to talk to about college football this upcoming year than yourself. So, yeah, let's get your thoughts. I want to start with your alma mater, Tennessee. My current school that I go to is NC State. That is a scheduled non-conference game to open the year. What are your thoughts on the significance of non-conference games?
Well, I think they're exciting.
Yeah.
And one thing I never like to do in the middle of the summer is make predictions about games. But I'm going to go ahead and violate that because the University of Tennessee is going to destroy NC State. I say that jokingly. One of my close friends is an NC State fan, and I know Dave Doran pretty well and like him. I think it will be a great game.
Yeah.
But I do like Tennessee to win the game.
Would you agree, though, that NC State has significantly improved this season?
Amazing.
Thanks to the transfer portal.
They've had a great improvement. And I'll say this, a couple of years ago, it was maybe 2 years ago, whenever they beat Clemson.
Yeah.
I was like screaming and hollering because I think I'd picked NC State to win that game. And I've had a little bit of a problem with Clemson for some time.
Yeah.
But, before somebody goes crazy and say that I think it will be a very close game, but I do like Tennessee to win.
Yeah. With the new playoff and the setting of it with 12 teams, do you think NC State has a legit shot at it?
Yeah. Here's the new thing that people have to realize about the playoff. You don't have to go undefeated.
Yes.
Last year, Georgia was undefeated, lost its championship game against Alabama, got knocked out of the playoffs.
Ridiculous.
FSU was undefeated and didn't get in. This year, if you're in the ACC, you could probably get away with a 10-2 record. Maybe in the Big Ten or the SEC, possibly 9-3. So yeah, if NC State wins or is in second in the ACC,
a Tennessee win might hold a lot of weight for us.
I think it's a critical game because it's like in the college basketball. You have to have a big win on your resume, and that would be, other than the ACC games, the biggest win. It would be a quality win because that's going to be on the second weekend of September,
Yes, sir. Yes, it
or the
is.
first weekend, whatever it is. That's going to be the biggest game in the country, or
I love
one of the
that.
biggest games.
College
in the
game day, maybe?
country. Very likely, yes.
Heck yeah. Okay, so enough about my own school. The big news right now, Texas and Oklahoma. I know in a few weeks you'll be going to touch on that. Do you think that they will be cemented as powerhouses in the SEC as they were in their previous conferences?
I think Texas will. I don't think Oklahoma will initially.
Okay.
It's hard to be a powerhouse in a league like the SEC
Sure.
because there's so much at the top. So I think Texas starts the season off ranked in the top 3 or 4 in the country. I mean, they have a really good quarterback, but their backup is probably the biggest story.
I was going to say, I don't understand what's going on with that. Why, do you think Arch Manning should have transferred? I mean, I'm sure every other team just about could have used him.
Yeah, he could have gone anywhere. The one thing that Arch Manning has the advantage of that the rest of us don't is that he didn't have to transfer for the money. He's got a fairly wealthy family, so he wasn't lured by that. He wanted to be at Texas. And he's one of the most patient young people I've ever met because nobody else would have stayed.
In today's generation?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, that's unheard of. Maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Most people would have been in 3 schools by now.
Exactly. Yeah, I said his talent and notability or notoriety,
Georgia had a quarterback a couple of years ago, I think J.T. Daniels.
Yep.
I think he went to 6 different schools.
He's now at Rice or something. Yeah.
Good luck.
Crazy. Good luck. Yeah. One more thing kind of on the Texas-Oklahoma transfer. Do you think now that Texas is in the SEC, it will reignite the Texas A&M-Texas rivalry to the point where it's at the level of the Red River rivalry?
Yes.
Interesting.
I think that's I've been around A&M a lot, and they want that game worse than any game I've ever seen. I mean, they really don't care about anything but beating Texas.
I love that. I can't wait to watch that game then. That's gonna be incredible. Nick Saban, he's gone. DeBoer is there now at Alabama, trying to bring that culture from Washington. What do you think that transition will be like? A successful one,
it's gone very well so far, but
okay.
the one thing I know, and I spent 30 years in Alabama, they treat football kind of like North Carolina treats basketball.
Yep.
They over dramatize every dribble.
Yes.
And that's what's going to happen. And a lot of coaches go through a tough transition. He has not, and I think he'll be good. But I mean, he's lost some of the best. They lost their best quarterback. They lost their best backup quarterback. They lost their best wide receiver. You just don't replace those players.
No, obviously. So. Do we still see Alabama obviously making the playoff? But
I think they have a chance because they
wow.
do have the schedule. They have Georgia and Texas, Georgia and Oklahoma on the schedule.
They got some potential to have some big ones.
They have Wisconsin, so that they could go 9-3, and probably get in the playoffs.
Wow, interesting. I think you're right. Yeah, and you know much more than me, so you're probably right. But
I don't know.
Another thing that's different with college football now is Nick Saban left most likely, in my opinion, because of everything going on with NIL, and it's less genuine now. And for example, Colorado is the biggest culprit of it. It feels like a lot of their players are NIL driven to go to that school. And Dion, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it has destroyed college football in it to a degree, or at least the heart behind it?
No.
No. Okay.
A lot of my people my age do, but I've never liked establishment thinking. Even when I was even now. I mean, when I was young, I always didn't want to hear about how great it used to be, and I don't want to hear about it now. To me,
sure. Young
people have every right to make whatever they can make. I have yet to see it affect the game. It may at some point.
That's a good point.
But I know one thing. We're sitting here in the middle of the summertime. Come September, fans of NC State, Clemson, Alabama, LSU, they will care as much about going to the game as they did before NIL. The portal is probably the biggest culprit because now you have to re-recruit your players every single year.
It's
but
crazy.
You know what? When I was in college, I made $40 a month being at the sports editor of the school paper.
Now they're making $40 a minute.
Yeah, so I don't care. It doesn't. I mean, it's about time because the coaches are making $12 million a year. Why shouldn't the players make something?
You're right. So, kind of transition to the NFL. There was a lot of quarterbacks drafted in the first round this year. Which one do you think will see the most success their rookie year?
I really do believe it's Caleb Williams. I know a lot of people scoring that, but I've watched him for a number of years when he started at Oklahoma, and I just think he's a more complete quarterback. Jaden Daniels, to me,
I don't think Jaden Daniels is set up to succeed next year.
I agree.
Yeah.
To me, the mystery, and I'm getting close to home here, is Drake Mays because there is so many people that believe in him, and then the detractors.
Yeah, it's definitely, and with New England, yes, they've brought in Jalen Polk and they have Ramondre. Yeah. They have some weapons, but they really don't have what Caleb Williams has around him. So I think it'll be similar to how it was at UNC. Craig's
Yeah.
going to have to do it all, and we'll see if he can do that in the NFL. It's going to be interesting, yeah. And then kind of one last thing on college football. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest college football team of all time? Is it that 2001 Miami team, the LSU team recently? What are you thinking?
I think the best team I've seen now, I remember the Miami teams. I've never seen a more complete team than Joe Burrow's team.
That's my opinion as well, yeah.
He had it. I mean, just look at his wide receivers, defensive players. I mean, the only thing I don't like about that team is the coach.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Ed Ogeron will be like a final Jeopardy question, like who's the worst coach to ever win a national championship in about whenever, a couple of years. But other than that, I mean, Joe Burrow is just a generational player.
Absolutely. And that defense, I mean, everyone talked about the offense, and the defense had the dogs on it as well. I mean, there was one game which it got a little bit overshadowed, but you had Joe Burrow versus Tua Tagovailoa, and it was like 46-41. I mean, it was a really it was the best of college football. Heck yeah, absolutely. Tua's my guy. Dolphins fans out there, So for somebody like myself, an aspiring podcaster, sports content creation, maybe one day trying to be in front of a camera at a larger scale like yourself, what advice would you have for me to make a name for myself?
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
Break every rule.
Okay.
I mean, I know I don't sound like somebody of my generation.
Yeah, I love it.
But I talk to a lot of young people, and don't do the same thing that's already being done. You have to stand out. Why do certain people in the industry get noticed today? Why is Pat McAfee at the top of the?
Different.
Because he came in like a bull in the china shop.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith, because he's loud and he commands the stage. Don't just. I mean, I have young people say, I want to work for ESPN. I said, why? Well, because I know a lot about sports. Everybody knows a lot about sports. How can you present something uniquely, creatively, intelligently, and in a compelling fashion that makes people want to come back?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's super great insight. Is there anything that somebody like myself should not do when trying to make a name for yourself? Anything in specific?
Well, you to be successful in this industry, you have to get noticed.
Okay.
So whatever you do, make sure somebody knows who you are.
Sure.
I think it helps if you interview people that have followings and
Sure, yeah.
can help. But I don't want you to stand on outside and scream fire just to get attention, because that won't only work one time.
It's not sustainable. Yeah.
But you have to be fearless. I mean, I'm not talking about doing stupid things. I'm not talking about being uncouth. I'm talking about just take chances, because that's I mean, if I'm just looking for a podcast to listen to, do I really want to hear two guys arguing over why the Celtics 1-4 or why Luka's? No, I mean, I can get that anywhere. I want something.
Substance,
I want something that I haven't already. Tell me something I don't know is my approach.
That.
If you're I'm interviewing people all the time, and they'll say, well, who's going to win between NC State and Tennessee? Well, it could go either way. I know it can go either way, but tell me who's going to win.
Uh-huh.
You have to push the envelope. You have to be a little on the edge. I think somebody like you, I mean, first of all, you literally grabbed me out of the street and brought me in here, so I give you credit for that.
I appreciate that.
But you have to take chances.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate that. And one last thing for everyone out there, is there anything that you would like for everyone to know about Paul Finebaum? Maybe that they don't know, or that.
Well, the dirty little secret is that I'm actually a nice person.
I would see him at the gym, and I'd see him walking around, and I always thought a very closed person, doesn't want to talk to anyone, and I meet him for the first time, and he's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
But
so
people,
you're right.
I mean, people tend to put walls up, and I'm one of those, because you kind of live in that world. So I'm sure the next person that you walk right into is like, that guy, he never talks to anybody, which is fine. That stuff doesn't bother me.
Sure.
My wife is like, she'll say hello to everyone.
Yep.
I'll look down. I mean, I'm just, but that's probably the biggest misnomer, because I mean, a lot of people, when you have a reputation, whether it's me or somebody else, they tend to hate you. They tend to think the worst of you. That's fine. You can't live your life worrying about what somebody thinks of you.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll end on that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little something about Paul, got some insight, because his opinions hold a little bit more weight than someone like myself. And hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in.